The trans community is a very important part of the LGBTQ plus community all across the world, but especially in Florida and in 2023. When it comes to trans culture, you cannot skip the thought of drag performances and the worldwide famous drag queen shows, various different implementations of our community, whether you think that that is a true statement or not. Against the backdrop of the recent attacks that we have seen on drag events, it is more important than ever that all of the letters of LGBTQ plus stick together. And that is the impetus behind History Fort Lauderdale's Take Pride. It brings a sense of togetherness and recognitions by honoring LGBTQ plus trailblazers in our community. Today's guest will be a perfect person to help us understand drag culture, the trans community, and overall the pioneer history of what has gone on in South Florida for LGBTQ and what it actually means, whether it is really hurting society or, as some conservatives claim, and how it benefits our community at large. Since 1972, our guest today has worked tirelessly to break down barriers and advance the public perception of transgender lives in our LGBTQ plus communities. Our guest is Tiffany Arieagus and is an entertainer and a pioneer. And we'll discuss that word pioneer because that's at the heart of History Fort Lauderdale. She is an LGBTQ plus advocate. Tiffany began her career as a showgirl. Now that is not a word that I get to use very often at Queer News Tonight. Showgirl. And she was an onstage sensation. She has won nearly 50 titles in all kinds of pageants. Watching her hypnotize the crowd with her dazzling smile, costumes, and performance is a mesmerizing spectacle. Even if only viewable today via digitized video that has been uploaded to YouTube, her star power is still palpable and undeniable in 2023. So welcome to Unapologetically Queer. I'm your host, AlFerguson, and I'm proud to talk to some of the most interesting people of our LGBTQ plus community that are the most interesting to the LGBTQ plus community. This program is unique because it is an unedited conversation. At Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, our mission is based on the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ plus community. We believe celebrating our history and our future are based on the communities of the Black LGBTQ plus community, Latino, lesbian and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Tiffany Arieagus has seen a life of a young LGBTQ plus population that has grown dramatically. And maybe some of the youngest members of our community have forgotten a big portion of our history, which is what June Pride Month is all about. She has a lot that she can tell us about the queer culture of our community and the trans community back in her time when she began sharing her own story. So, welcome, Tiffany Arieagus. And first off, as I said, it's not often that I get to talk to somebody that's been recognized at this event this month from History Fort Lauderdale. It's going on at the Galleria, and I should get out right at the top. The Galleria on Sunrise is doing this exhibit. It's month-long for June Pride, and it's called Take Pride. And Tiffany was recognized in its opening as one of the pioneers of the history of LGBTQ+. Tell us a little bit about the early days for you, your experience and how you got to where you are today and what is being celebrated at the Take Pride event.
Well, you know, there were so many people. Thank you, first of all. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for recognizing me as a pioneer, even though I feel like I'm just a blessed person, a blessed lady, woman, that had people before me that had fought hard and paved the way for me. I had such wonderful girls, ladies, and gentlemen, and members of the LGBTQ community. Back then, we called it gay. Everybody was just gay. Gay, lesbian, and trans, or bisexual also. And it was like we were working for a purpose, one purpose. We wanted gay rights. And so that is where, for me, the fight began. I had grown up in Alabama with my mother. Everybody knows the story. That I walked in the Civil Rights Parade with my mom. So I have always been one to want to make things better. That's how I was brought up. And with lots of love. My mother always said, you respect those that you respect yourself so others can respect you. And you respect them also. You cannot ask for respect if you don't give respect. So I've always believed in that mantra for the way I run my life. As I said, when I started performing, I had wonderful girls who it helped me to understand what I must do, and I must be involved in making my own life better and making life better for others.
You, in all of the pageants that you have competed in over the years, part of the Take Pride exhibit that History Fort Lauderdale is doing this month is a longevity. You're being celebrated along with Dean Trentellis, the mayor of Fort Lauderdale, and so many other people that in their different lanes are being celebrated as the history of the LGBTQ community. You're unique this year in that you represent many aspects of our LGBTQ community, but very specifically the performance. When you began, approximately when did you do your first pageants? When did you enter the pageants?
My first pageant was in 1973. That was when I started. I was still in college, and I
was it here in Florida or where?
The first pageant was in Mississippi, believe it or not.
Mississippi.
In Biloxi, Mississippi. And I just started performing. I had seen the show, and I started performing. I had some other friends from college, and they said, girl, enter the pageant. So, and I could sew, so I made my costumes and went to Mississippi. And there was 11 contestants. I was number 11, and I won. And
your first pageant, I won. You won the crown.
I won the crown. Not that I'm not saying I was good, but somebody liked me.
Right.
And from then on, I love entertaining. When I first started out, I was going to be a school teacher. I love education and kids and making. But then at that point, things were kind of, people in schools, they begun to bring guns back then. So that this issue with guns has been a long time going on. And so I said, I got to get out of here. Because most of the kids I was teaching lived in my neighborhood. I mean, we grew up together. So it was like I was not Miss Arieagus, I was just, Tiffany. So I said, no, I got to go. So I started entertaining. And that was the beginning of just Tiffany, when I just really felt my moment. And I was blessed to be able to win quite a few titles, but I also lost a lot too. So it's the education that you learn.
How many total pageants do you think you've competed in?
I don't know.
What would you guess?
Oh, Lord, maybe 60 more. Yes, because I mean, it's a learning experience. At that point, that's where a girl got, you got your name. You had to get out into the community, because back then we didn't have Facebook and all of that. So you had to go to different areas and compete.
We remind viewers, History Fort Lauderdale's exhibit about Take Pride. Tiffany enters her first pageant 51 years ago. Now, That was just 4 years after the Stonewall riots in New York. You do this in Biloxi, Mississippi. When do you come to Florida?
I came to Florida in 1973. Right after then, I went to see a pageant in a show in Pensacola, Florida. And I was so taken by Carmen Del Rio. And I said, I want to be like her. Everybody's got an idol. My idol for my career is Carmen Del Rio. And she was from Puerto Rico, absolutely amazing. And so that was the beginning of it. And then I entered my first professional pageant, I call it. It was the Miss Universe pageant in Pensacola. And that would be the beginning of me living in Florida.
And how about to South Florida? When did you come to South
I came to South Florida in December of 1980. 1979, excuse me,
79. So 43 years, 44
43 years ago. And from there, I moved in. I worked for the COPA, thank God, for John and Bill.
Yeah.
John and Bill were
What did you do with the COPA?
I was a show director.
The show director at the COPA?
I was a show director at the COPA. And then I became a showgirl, because I moved away. I was able to, I got a part on Miami Vice. And then I would decide, when I got Miami Vice, I moved to Texas so I could go to acting school for a while. And I lived and worked in Texas. And then after Texas, I came back to Florida. And then I lived in Las Vegas. I lived in New York. I lived in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I've been in Chicago.
Yeah.
Texas.
Did you, and I apologize for not knowing, but did you have interaction with the Miss Florida pageant while you were here?
Oh yeah, the first time I did Miss Florida was 1974. Roxanne Russell won, and I was first runner-up.
Gosh, I apologize that I don't know
That's
that.
okay. And then I went away to Texas during that time. And I went, this was way before Miami Vice, but I went to Texas. I came back in 1976, and I was in the pageant, but I just made the top 8. I didn't make it past that. And then 2 years later, I won. Dana Manchester was one of my best friends, and she won in 1977. And I had moved to Daytona, and the night she won, they told me, Dana won. I said, okay. I said, wonderful. And they said, so what do you think? I said, I'm going to be the next one.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing. Now, Tiffany, I am shocked that we've met multiple times. I've seen you host in multiple things. I've interacted with you at SUNSERVE. But I just want to tell you, right before your very eyes, I'm beginning to fanguy right in front of you. And the reason is because I'm learning of now how this history, embracement by History Fort Lauderdale and the history of South Florida is coming true. For viewers that may not know, Miss Florida is arguably, historically, the most important state pageant in history. Miss Florida at the Fontainebleau was just legendary.
It was considered to be the event of the social event of the year.
Yes.
The first until recently, Miss Florida was never held in a nightclub. It was always held in hotels.
Yeah.
The year I won, there were 2,200 people in the grand ballroom of the Fontainebleau Hilton. And the runway was the length of a football field, and we had 29 girls in the pageant. You came for a weekend. It was.
Tiffany, does it shock you that when you say that so succinctly in 2 sentences, that the overwhelming LGBTQ, you work on Wilton Drive, overwhelmingly the LGBTQ community goes, wait, what did she just say? That they have no idea how important the Miss Florida pageant was when you won it.
Exactly. I mean, and also we had all the girls that were winning Miss America. I love the Miss Americas, and the Miss USA, the Miss USAs, and Miss Continentals. And many of them, after they win those national titles, would still come back and enter Miss Florida.
And compete in Miss Florida.
Miss Florida, come back to a state title.
Incredible. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. And so it created the more prestige for us because everybody wanted to be Miss Florida. And when I was Miss Florida, I worked more outside the state than in the state, considering, because I was on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And it helped to build knowledge and the expectation of people say, oh, you go to Florida, honey, you're going to see the very best.
Yeah.
And everything. So I love the Miss Florida pageant. We just celebrated 50 years.
That's right.
Of Miss Florida.
That's right. You know what's interesting? I'm fanguying now in hearing this history of LGBT South Florida and your participation in it. And the reason is because I came early to RuPaul's Drag Race and worked at RuPaul's Drag Race for 7 years. I remember very clearly that the issue with Tammy Brown's embracement from RuPaul was the history that Tammy Brown represented in drag culture, of Lady Bunny and the history of the early days of acceptance of drag culture. And you're sitting in that same classification of, in a time that was so critically important. In the 1970s, we had Anita Bryant. When you were Miss Florida, Anita Bryant was just getting the pie pushed into her face.
Oh, you know, yes, but then we were all, like I said, we were all focused on our rights, and we were not going to say we weren't taking it no more. We deserve rights.
We're just not taking it anymore.
We're not taking it anymore. You know, I always say a house divided cannot stand. So we all stood together. We stood strong. We called for the boycott on the Florida orange juice, and Anita Bryant. You know, she was the queen of the Florida orange juice. But honey, when the power of the community came together and we boycotted it, hey, she had to change. And sometimes, I'm looking at what's going on now, and I'm thinking we need to go back to some of the old ways, and use some of the things that we already know that work.
Yeah. It was going to be the segue that I talked about. 51 years later from your start in Biloxi, Mississippi, winning Miss Florida, pushing a pie into Anita Bryant's face, this year you're back to your activism in community by helping in your participation and lending your voice and the power of you by doing the drag protest in the Tallahassee Capitol.
That was the most embracing, the most amazing show of power, I think, in a long time.
Tell everyone, explain what happened this spring in the Florida session.
Well, what happened is I went to see the Florida legislature in action. I was very proud to go with the Dolphin Democrats, and Tom Del May and his group. We went there, and I spent 2 days watching the Florida legislature and how the Republicans, I just have to say it like it is, how the Republicans dismissed.
We allow cursing in our shows.
That's not necessary. That's not. You know what I'm saying? That's not necessary right now. But sometimes it may come out.
Yeah.
But I watched them dismiss and disrespect our representatives, the Democrats. I sat there and watched so much go wrong. And so a friend of mine, Darcel Stevens from Orlando.
Legendary host herself at the Parliament House.
And my friend for years, way before Parliament House, we've been friends. And she had been there also and she had seen the same thing. And then she said, we have to do something. And so she put together this march, and she called for all the drag queens and entertainers to get together and we kept it quiet and to converge on Tallahassee on the 25th of March. And you think, okay, yeah, we're going to be there, we're there. And we got our bus from Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach County, and it was a wonderful bus. We had a great time. And I thank all the sponsors that helped us to get that bus and all the ladies that participated. And then when we got there, it was just overwhelming to see so many people from all over the state. And we got to see our friends that we knew from Pensacola and from Tallahassee and from the little cities and everything. Everybody represented all 67 counties. So that lets you know there's drag and there's LGBTQ plus in all 67 counties.
Drag queens from all 67 counties in Florida.
Yes, and LGBTQ plus is in 67 counties. So you can't dismiss us. We are part of the fabric.
We showed on Queer News Tonight while you were there in the Capitol. We showed that night the march when you went into the rotunda of the Capitol and you were chanting.
Yes.
And all the sea of drag queens chanting for rights. That moment, winning Miss Florida in the mid 1970s, at a time when there was, we were just a couple of years away, removed from the Stonewall riots in New York, to March 25th of 2023 of your marching in the Capitol Rotunda, chanting with drag queens. What did that feel like at that moment when you were there?
Well, it was kind of irritating that you had to do this. Here you are, almost 50 years later, and here you are,
We're still
50 years later, and here you are again, got to stand up and fight for the rights that you earned.
Long settled.
Long settled. Only because you have those small-minded people who want to manipulate power, and they want to control what people, their lives, what they feel, what's in their heart, what's in their mind, their soul, and their body. I mean, it's wrong. I want to ask them, I want to ask the Republicans, all those people who want to tell me or you or anybody how to live, I want to ask them, do you want me to tell you how to live? Because I have some things I could tell you that would really rock your world. But I'm guaranteed they would say, oh no, I don't need you to tell me how to live. But so why should you tell me? And then they want to say, they're Christians. Okay, I believe in God, honey. I believe in God. My grandmother made sure that we all went to church through. So I know the Bible. I know this. And nowhere in the Bible it says, love thy enemy as thyself. The golden rule, true unto others as you want to have them do unto you. I don't remember nobody said the Bible saying, honey, you're the king of the mountain, and you tell them what to do. Right. I just don't.
Right. Reverend Tiffany is going to preach here today.
I'm sorry.
Unapologetically queer. No.
Oh, I guess it's unapologetic.
That's right. You're unapologetic. And
that word I just keep. I guess.
Yeah, you're right. I understand. And the reason you did this March 25th, and by the way, y'all did a really, really good job. Darcel did a really good job. We're news in LGBT, and you caught us completely by surprise, because when we learned, and the buses had already left, but we were learning that morning, wait, what is happening? And then we start making calls and reaching out, and that night we reported on it and showed the video of what had happened at the Capitol. It was such a prideful moment for our community. You couldn't do anything about what was happening. The governor is the governor, the supermajority is the supermajority, but that didn't stop y'all. You just said, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, our voices must be heard. If you sit back and do nothing, then you can have nothing. You can't complain. I think that we sat back too long. We knew what was going on. I think we should have motivated and activated sooner.
Yeah.
We have to let our voice be known, and we have to speak loud and clear and direct. So right now we're working on trying to, get out the vote. I want to tell people to focus on talking to people that you normally don't talk to. So I'm talking now to some of my old Republican friends that I had stopped talking to because I just didn't feel like they had my interest in hand, which most of them don't. But I'm talking to them now, and I'm trying to let them see there is a difference, you know. You focus in on, the gay Republicans. I have a couple of friends, and I want to ask them, you know, I know money's important, you know, in this world. Money's important, but it's got to be something more than money, because if you're a gay man, and you're a gay Republican, and they get the white supremacists, who we all see as part of that group, the Christian right on that. It seems like
Fascist even.
It's fascist and everything. So if they decide if they get the power that they want, and they go after gay people, no matter how much money you got, you're a target also. So why are you voting against yourself so you can keep your money? When you
Tiffany, I'm curious. So
that was my activism. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, of course, don't be sorry.
Not apologizing.
Right, you're unapologetic.
Not apologizing.
To that challenge, all of these drag queens could get on buses from all over Florida and ride 5, 6, 7 hours to get to the Capitol to do that march. Not because you're going to change minds, and not because you're going to win the day. The bill goes into effect. You do it anyway. What would you say to LGBT? What do you want us to do? We want to vote, of course. We heard you. But are you happy about how we're responding? Are we taking on the challenge the way the drag queens and the drag community did on March 25th?
I don't think so. I think we need to become more vigilant. We need to more focused. We also need to come out of our little shell. We need to join in with the women's rights for the rights of abortion rights, and women's rights to make decisions for their own body. We need to protect our children. The book ban. We need to join in every fight. The Gen Z. We need to join with the Gen Z. We also need to join with climate. I mean, we need to save our planet. We need to become a part of the bigger picture. You know, and when you put all of that together, then those little people won't have no power. But as long as we stay in one corner, and this person's in that corner, it's all, like I said, a house divided. They can beat us. We have to come together. So I would love to see all communities come together and fight for democracy, fight for the right to be who you are and to love who you want, and to be free. You know, to be free. That's really, really the best. I think the best thing in the world. I love it. I travel a lot. To Europe a lot. I try to go every summer. That's like I love Paris, and so. When I go to Europe, sometimes my friends over there, they're questioning about America, and they said, "Well, y'all don't."
We've lost our way.
Yeah, you don't fight. You don't stand up for what you want. They see a lot of people complaining, but the action is not there.
Yeah.
So that is what I think we need to do.
More voice and more action is what you're saying.
More voice, more action, and more determination.
You know, it's so interesting to me. We tell this story, and we've told this story 1,000 times. You're featured in this exhibit of Take Pride at History Fort Lauderdale at the Galleria. It's running all month long as a June celebration. You enter your first pageant. I'm just shocked, in 1972 or 73 in Biloxi, Mississippi. And just 3-4 years earlier, Stonewall Pride takes place, and center of that protest are drag queens and trans women.
Yes.
Who pick up the first brick and say, that's enough.
That's enough. You know, I went to school, I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, went to school, and the University of South Alabama, and the gay clubs, we didn't have a lot of gay clubs, but we had them. But we just went to all the clubs, you know, the straight clubs, gay clubs. You get up and you dance with whoever you want to dance with. Two guys want to dance, they dance. Nobody said nothing. So when Stonewall happened in my college, everybody marched for it. I mean, you have to join in. So, and everybody, sometimes people think that Alabama, oh my God, it's so redneck. Yeah, it is. But in Mobile, it was like, everybody was living. Yeah, I think it's because it may be a coastal town, and it's right so close to New Orleans, so maybe. And my father's from New Orleans, but I didn't have that fight of being who I am. I didn't have to deal with that. I was able to live free.
Beyond the history, you know, I'm learning of your experience during the Stonewall riots, and of course, if you've entered a pageant in Biloxi, Mississippi in 72 or 73, I'm quickly calculating your age in my head, and I'm just stunned at the history of LGBT America in South Florida that you have watched.
I'm a proud 71-year-old woman.
71. And you look absolutely fabulous.
Well, thank you, darling.
It always.
Hey, flip the hair.
Exactly right. Hair flip. I want to talk a moment about what we're watching in the trans community. In 2023, no community has seen greater attack in the state houses in America, and especially here in Florida and in Texas, to the trans community, even to existence now. It's an existence fight that you can either live or die. And that's what the healthcare fight is all about. What do you think about what we're watching on the attacks on the trans community?
I think it's unwarranted. It's the attacks are false. Those, because they don't know. Most of those people don't even know trans people. They don't know anything about trans people. It's something they took up. It's a social fight that they took up to win power. That's what it is. So they're victimizing all the trans people because that's the only thing I can think of. However, we have to fight harder, stronger. I do engage people and ask them, do you know any trans people? Listen, no. Well, how can you say? Well, I heard. That is heard. When I was in Tallahassee, one of the mornings, they were having the vote about medical care. And if a doctor or a nurse had to treat a patient, but they didn't want to treat them because of their religious beliefs, and to sit there and listen to doctors and med students and nurses go up to the dais, and they only had 30 seconds, but in those 30 seconds, because of their religious belief, they didn't feel like they should have to help trans people or people they disagreed with. But that's leading right next to color people, to the color. I don't mean to say colored people, you know what I mean, people of color. And so all it is prejudice to the 10th degree, or maybe more. And we have to find a way to, we got to find a way to let people know and to engage people.
How about in the LGBT community, the L, the G, the B, the Q, and the plus? Are we doing a good enough job for the trans in our LGBTQ community?
Well, there's prejudice in every community. And I hate to say it. There are times when you'll hear, I've heard in my career, that's a drag queen. What do they know? Oh, drag queens are drug dealers. And people don't even know you. They don't even know you. It's just a perception.
So you're suggesting even internally in LGBT, sometimes we may be no better than what we see outside our community.
Exactly. There is, and there may be people that will disagree with me, but if they're being honest, Many of the girls will tell you they've heard it. You know, they've been, people have said things in your face and behind your back. I've had friends say things that to another person, and it got back to me. And so, but you know, so yeah, that's prejudice.
Tiffany, I'm curious to all of these issues. You lived through the days of, and aware of the days in college of the Stonewall riots. 71 years old, the history of entering first pageant in the early 1970s, and 51 years of being this entertainer representative, now being recognized by History Lauderdale at the Galleria as one of the pioneers of the LGBTQ community. This year, we faced the attack on trans, the drag queen ban, Don't Say Gay, now administered all the way to the 12th grade, book bans. We can't have African American studies in AP because it is a queer theory. That's just this year that we've faced your challenges of the community, and I've heard you loud and clear. We've all must stand up and say enough is enough. Are you optimistic that we're going to do that?
Yes. 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 We have to. You know, we have to. Oh, I just got a chill. We have to, because if we don't, everybody loses. Everybody loses, you know. So
that much is at stake.
That much is at stake. I can imagine going back, you know, going backwards. We can't. This is America, y'all. This is the land. It's supposed the land.
It's our democracy.
Yeah, it's the land of the of the free, home of the brave. We have to save democracy. We have to stand up for democracy. We have to, you know, stand up for each other, and we got to love each other. Instead of the backbiting that may go on and all that, we got to reach out and touch somebody. We got to reach out and hug somebody. I mean, being a pioneer, I'll say, if it hadn't been for the love and the reaching out, where one person gave another person a hand and helped them along the way, then I wouldn't have made the road. I wouldn't have made it. So we all have to be pioneers, because there's always tomorrow.
We all must be pioneers.
We must be pioneers. We have to look out and help to make it better for our children, for the future. We have to, you know.
Last thing I want to talk to you about is what you're doing today. Life is not over. You're just getting started. You are the administrative director at SUNSERVE. Tell us a little bit about that role and stuff that you're doing now.
Oh, thank you so much for that lovely title. But I am the administrative assistant to the vice president of operations.
Okay, all right.
Of SUNSERVE.
Still sounds like a good title to me.
I love it.
Yeah, and tell everybody what you do at SUNSERVE. Well, first, tell everybody what SUNSERVE does, because maybe some people don't know how important SUNSERVE is.
Of course, SUNSERVE is the first LGBTQ focused mental health service organization, and it was founded 21 years ago by Dr. LaPresti, and we have wonderful programs. We have a senior daycare center. We have, of course, mental health services. We have a youth department, an extensive youth department. We have transgender services, women's services. We have substance abuse. And also, we have the housing for people who are HIV positive or have a family affected or infected with HIV. Excuse me. I worked in that department for 10 years. I was the lead housing specialist, then I became the supervisor, and eventually the director. For 10 years, I enjoyed it extremely much. And now I work with Gary Hensley, who is our Chief Operating Officer.
Yeah, and we invite everyone to go to SUNSERVE's website, learn more about them. They have vital need services in our community in all different kinds of aspects. Tony Lima, a very good friend of this show, as the executive director, and Misty Eyes in the trans and women's services as an original anchor of Queerness Tonight.
Oh, okay.
I have to say, though, my curiosity relating to you is, at this point in your life, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do your work at SUNSERVE. What's keeping you motivated to work for an organization and support an organization like SUNSERVE?
Because I love it. I love it. Getting up and going to work it keeps me focused, keeps me with a purpose. Also, some people ask me why don't I retire? I said, "Oh, honey, I spent all my money when I was young." I had a good time. I said, if they say, "Oh, how was her life growing up?" It was wonderful. I love life, and I love living. But I love helping people. As a case manager, I started out 23 years ago, at Center One, at the One Siki Foundation.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that this would be what I would end up doing for 23 years. But I'm so glad. I call it a blessing because it's been a mainstay in my life. I think it's helped to keep me focused. And then I have my entertainment that lets me be free. Let me be the wild woman I am. And then I can go back into my other world and then just focus. So I love helping people. And at SUNSERVE, I got to do that when I was doing housing. I like the challenge of being able to help people in difficult situations. Still to this day, I have a storage locker that I keep furniture and bedding and stuff, so that when people ask me, or the clients would ask for, they don't have any furniture or anything, I will give them the stuff I have if they can use it. So I think, like, it's always been my passion to help, to be a part of my community, because my community has loved me. Has loved me and given me so much. All of this is from God, my mother, my family, the people who helped me along the way. All of this, so it just keeps adding up. And it makes me stronger, it makes me better. So I, in turn, have to give back. And that is, I love it.
Yeah, I love that summary too. You must go and see this exhibit, History Fort Lauderdale. It's at the gallery, as I said, the rest of this month. It's been running all this month at the Galleria, and it celebrates a collection of about 15 pioneers of the LGBTQ community and the history of LGBT South Florida. And you've learned a lot about it in this conversation from Tiffany Arieagus. I have to say to you, I asked a friend of mine that knows you pretty well, and I said, if you were going to summarize who Tiffany Arieagus was, who would it be? And it was interesting because the answer was the character from Color Purple, the singer-performer that becomes best friends with the Whoopi Goldberg character.
Oh, I love it.
And they said,
Shug Avery.
Who she is, Shug Avery.
And you know what? I love the blues.
And it's so funny to me because I love the movie and I love the character and the interaction between Whoopi's character and Shug Avery. And it's so interesting to me. The reason why we must, I've known about you since being here in South Florida. I've casually interacted with you. But having the opportunity of allowing the history to come off the page and learn about the history has made me fall in love with you in this conversation.
Oh, I love
have met Shug Avery. And that's right. And the LGBTQ community is better off for it. Make sure you go to Tiffany Arieagus' social media. There's lots to learn about her and at SUNSERVE and her work at SUNSERVE and all of the things that you have done in the LGBTQ community. Such an honor for me today. I mean this. Such an honor for me today to be able to talk to you.
And thank you so much. And it's such an honor for me from the bottom of my heart. And so I just want to wish everybody lots of love and positive energy. Great health.
Thank you, Tiffany Arieagus, for joining us on Unapologetically Queer.